Thank you, everyone, for joining us here today. My name is Carla Redd. I'm the chief of the Rockford Police Department. The spelling is Carla, C-A-R-L-A. Last name is Redd, R-E-D-D. I'm here today to provide you with an update on the horrific events that unfolded in our community yesterday. Of course, with everything that transpired, our community is hurting because of the senseless act of violence that took place. Just as a recap, we have 4 victims that are deceased, 5 in the city that were injured. 4 of those injured individuals were treated and released. We have 1 victim that is currently still in the hospital and listed in stable condition. 22-year-old Christian Soto is in custody and being charged with the heinous acts that took place yesterday. We have no other indications or any other reports that anyone else was involved in the events yesterday besides Soto. We received numerous calls yesterday from residents who saw portions of the violence unfolding. I definitely want to thank those community members that stepped up and made those calls to 911 because it enabled for us to get there quicker and get to the right locations. Law enforcement, our first responders across the board did a phenomenal job with getting to the scene, rendering aid as quickly as they did. And on a daily basis, day in and day out, they do an outstanding job serving and protecting this community. I also want to say thank you to Rockford Public School District as well as Rosecrans for stepping up and taking the lead and starting those efforts to help our community begin to heal. They're providing counseling services at Flynn Middle School today and tomorrow to the community. I will add just real quick, I did get a phone call in regards to the numerous community members that were showing up for the services to the point that they even had to call in extra counselors. With that being said, definitely we're concerned about the community, but I'm also concerned about our first responders. So we are diligently working with our EAP program to get our first responders the services that they need to make sure that they're well so they can continue to serve the community. You're going to hear from numerous others on our team that have been boots on the ground and providing the services, and there will be more information that will come out as well in regards to the victims and details of the charges that have been brought on Soto. At this point, I'm going to turn things over to Winnebago County Sheriff Gary Caruana. You're welcome.
Thank you for coming out and covering this situation, which is a tragic situation in our Winnebago County Rockford region. I do want to thank all the law enforcement agencies that were involved in this, from the feds to all our partners, county and city, and everybody that was involved out there, and the fire departments, Cherry Valley Fire Department, Rockford Fire Department, that helped us put this together and transported the victims. So the situation came out that there was a person that was on the loose stabbing. We didn't know what we had. We know we had a situation, very serious situation at the time. So the county in that area, it goes in and out of the city, county, and we back each other up all the time. We responded to the situation where it was occurring in the Skokie, Cleveland, Holmes area. At that time, we were also heard that we were being dispatched to the area of 2100 Eggleston, which is in the county, and we responded there along with Rockford. And what we found was there was a Good Samaritan that was helping one of the ladies that was a home invasion. She ran from the home on Florence and was tackled there at 2100 block of Eggleston, and he was in the process of stabbing her. The Good Samaritan stopped that situation, and she could have easily been deceased if he did not become involved with that. He ran off, came back, tried to get into his Jeep, and he was actually stabbed also, but he did a tremendous job in helping. At that time, city county squads arrived, and the chase ensued. One of the deputies was able to jump over several fences, was able to get him apprehended. Right behind them were Rockford PD, and that's where the point where they took him into custody. Again, heartfelt sorrow for the community. I want to thank all the people that are providing help to the community and to the first responders. And I want to, again, my condolences to the family, and just a tremendous job of all of our teams coming together, working together, again, with our local law enforcement and the feds. So I appreciate your concerns for being here. I'm going to turn it over to the County Board Chairman, Joe Chiarelli. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff. I want to thank the Chief, Red, and the entire Rockford Police Department. I want to thank the entire Rockford Fire Department and the Sheriff's Department. Our sincere gratitude for all of the first responders that ended the threat and kept our survivors safe. It is imperative that we all understand that the collaboration that has occurred in this tragedy was not by accident. We want to ensure the citizens of Winnebago County that we are doing as much as we can by resources, financial and otherwise, and our human capital, to have the best trained and the most equipped to handle these types of situations. My sincerest condolences on behalf of Winnebago County residents to the families. It's unimaginable what they're enduring at this point in time. But I want to ensure them and the rest of the community that we're doing as much as possible to always keep everyone as safe as possible in our Winnebago County. As a former alderman of this area, it touches me deeply in my heart that I represented the same people that were affected yesterday by this horrifying tragedy. And going back in time and serving them and having neighborhood meetings in that exact area where these murders occurred, knowing the quality of their minds and their hearts, how they only want the best for our community, and to be in a position of this tragedy is unimaginable for me. So my sincerest gratitude for them, for keeping their strength and helping assist the first responders, and my sincerest condolences to the people who lost their families in this area. So again, we will do as much as we can to keep the multi-jurisdictional cooperation going for the future. And I also want to say here that please respect the families. The media, all citizens, please respect the families' time in their mourning. There will be a time to reach out to them, but they need this space right now with the therapists and the counseling. And that would be my number one request today, is to make sure you respect the families. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. My name's Tom McNamara. I'm Mayor of the City of Rockford. I want to begin today first speaking on behalf of the Winnebago County Coroner's Office. I've been asked to release the names of those that are deceased from yesterday's horrific incident. They are 63-year-old Ramona Schubach, 23-year-old Jacob Schubach, 49-year-old Jay Larson, 15-year-old Jenna Newcomb, Jenna's mom wants the community to know that Jenna died saving her sister and her friend and protecting them from further harm. It's pretty difficult to even know where to begin to describe what's taking place. Our community has experienced such unthinkable tragedies this week. Before I begin to talk about yesterday's incident, I do want to acknowledge that we as a community are still processing the exceptional loss of Jason Jenkins. His family and loved ones have been on our minds and in our hearts since Sunday. I do want to say Jason needs to be lifted up. He was a church-going young man. He was a man of many accomplishments. He would set goals. He was loved by all who knew him. And his family wants people to know that he was more than just this victim, that he was exceptional. So here we are, 4 days later, addressing yet another horrendous incident right here in Rockford. I do echo the comments of previous speakers, and I want to thank the law enforcement officers from multiple jurisdictions for truly incredible work. And a quick response in responding to and apprehending the suspect of yesterday's tragedy. I also want to thank our first responders, from the dispatchers to the EMTs to the amazing hospital staff, for their care and their compassion during the toughest of situations. I specifically do also want to call out the coroner's office, their staff, for their work and their dedication. It's an incredibly difficult task that they have. We know that they are going through a lot and recognize their entire team. So the suspect is now in the hands of the court system, and we expect he will be held responsible to the fullest extent of the law. But our focus today and in the coming weeks as mayor of Rockford is taking care of those directly impacted in our community at large. Specifically, the loved ones of Jason Jenkins, Ramona Schubach, Jacob Schubach, Jay Larson, and young Jenna Newcomb. The trauma of this magnitude impacts all of us. These are dark days, but we as Rockfordians will get through this. As we speak right now, there's counselors over at Flynn Middle School with first responders. As the chief mentioned, I can report that these services are having a great impact. People are taking advantage of these services. As the chief reported, they've even had to add additional counselors. And again, a sincere thank you to Rose Grants from their leadership with Dave Gomel, to the counselors who are showing up at Flynn Middle School, to Rockford Public Schools, Dr. Aaron Jarrett and his facilities team for helping work so quickly to make this available to those who are just absolutely hurting. However, this is absolutely just the beginning of our community healing and those families beginning to heal. I also want to let Rockford know that we're not alone. I've heard already from the governor, I think from every federal legislator that represents our area, including the White House, all offering their support and acknowledging the impact of the trauma that our community is facing. Our community must continue to come together and lift each other up. Unfortunately, we have been here before. We've experienced great loss, and we've shown tremendous strength and resiliency by supporting one another and coming together. Kindness and compassion must lead us as we move forward. And I will say, every single person in our community can do something. We can be kind to our neighbors and be thoughtful in the words that we use in the conversations with others. If the last couple days doesn't show you, life is just far too short to speak hate. More than ever, the people who are most impacted by this horrific event need to see our community linking arms, not pointing fingers, but working together with an aligned vision of healing and moving Rockford forward as one Rockford. With that, I have the opportunity to introduce Ruth Mendoza. My condolences to your entire team. Ruth is the inspector in charge of the U.S. Postal Inspection Service from Chicago.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning. I'm Ruth Mendoza, U.S. Postal Inspector, Inspector in charge of the Chicago Division of the U.S. Postal Inspection Service. It is with great sadness that I extend my deepest condolences to the family of the victims, the community of Rockford, and my own Postal Service family. A 25-year veteran of the U.S. Postal Service, letter carrier Jay Larson, was taken from his family and from this community yesterday. This tragedy occurred while Jay was doing his job, like many of us were at that exact time. Jay was doing what he loved, serving his community, delivering mail to customers that he has served for 25 years. The U.S. Postal Inspection Service is the federal law enforcement branch of the U.S. Postal Service. It is our mission to investigate crimes involving letter carriers and to hold those responsible accountable. We thank the many first responders who urgently answered yesterday's call for help. We appreciate the outstanding collaboration and professionalism of the Rockford Police Department, the sheriff, and all the law enforcement personnel in this area. Postal inspectors will continue to provide whatever assistance is needed for however long it's necessary. Thank you, Chief Carla Red, Sheriff, for your leadership, and thank you to the brave detectives, officers, first responders, firefighters of the Rockford area, and all of the law enforcement partners here today. Thank you. State's Attorney Jay Hanley.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jay Hanley. I'm the Winnebago County State's Attorney. Today I'm going to go through the charges against Christian Soto. I'm also going to provide a factual summary. Before that, though, I want to briefly describe just the charging process here and generally how it occurs here in Winnebago County, and then how it's occurring with respect to Christian Soto. So, law enforcement investigated the crime. They, do the investigation. We aid in that sometimes where it's search warrants or the like, which is what occurred here. Then they present the case to us for charges. We apply the facts, the investigation that they've done to the law, and determine what should be charged. I think most people understand that. Here in Winnebago County, what usually happens is someone is initially charged by what's called a criminal complaint. So an officer, detective prepares that criminal complaint, and they also prepare a factual summary. The charging process is not done at that point. As again, most of you know, we ultimately will take that case before a grand jury and indict that case. And the reason I discuss that is for a number of reasons. First, the charges that I'm listing today, there may be more charges, and I think there probably will be more charges at the time that we present this to the grand jury. We're still, 48 hours roughly, even less, 24 hours from the incident. And so we're still, the investigation continues. It's not over by any means. At the same time, we have charged Mr. Soto. I want to talk a little bit about what's going to happen at 1:30 today. So he was lodged in the Winnebago County Jail last night. He'll appear at initial appearance court in courtroom B today at 1:30. At that time, he'll be notified of the charges against him, and we will file what's called a petition to deny his pretrial release. We're obviously going to seek that he be detained while he awaits trial. The judge will ultimately make that determination. As part of that process, during that hearing, we will present a summary of the facts in this case. And that's both to justify the charges themselves, but to also show the court that Mr. Soto is a danger to the community. That factual summary will actually become, and the charges themselves will become public information. In fact, they could be right now. As of 11:30, they weren't. One of the things that we're going to do is, for some of you who are going to show up at 1:30 today in courtroom B, Our PIO will be there, and she will actually have the complaints and the factual summaries there for you. We're going to get into this. I'm going to read them verbatim to you today. But at the same time, whether it's spellings of names, dates of birth, all of that, you can actually, we'll give those to you. Like I said, if they're not public information right now, they certainly will be at 1:30. Christian Ivan Soto, date of birth November 23rd, 2001, is charged as follows. Let me back up. There's two separate complaints. Some of you may recall that most of the incidents occurred in Rockford, Illinois. One particular incident, especially 2 counts of attempt murder, occurred in Winnebago County. So there's 2 separate complaints. At the time of indictment, there won't be that separation. But today I'm going to refer to them as the city complaint and the county complaint. I'm going to start with the city complaint. Count one of 11, pardon. On March 27, 2024, in Winnebago County, Christian Ivan Soto committed the offense of first-degree murder. That's the murder of Jacob Shupek. Count 2 of 11, March 27, 2024, Christian Ivan Soto committed the offense of first-degree murder. The victim in that case, Ramona Shubek. Count 3 of 11, on March 27th, Christian Ivan Soto committed the offense of first-degree murder. The victim in that case, Jay Larson. Count 4 of 11, March 27, 2024, Christian Ivan Soto committed the offense of first-degree murder. The victim in that case is J.A.N., date of birth 4/1/2008. Count 5 of 11, Christian Ivan Soto on March 27, 2024, committed the offense of attempt first-degree murder. The victim in that case, initials SDN 6/9/2009. Those initials are because those victims are juveniles. Count 6 of 11, March 27, 2024, Christian Ivan Soto committed the offense of attempt first-degree murder. The victim, KIA, date of birth 5/16/2008. Count 7 of 11, attempt first-degree murder, March 27, 2024, Christian Ivan Soto committed attempt first-degree murder. The victim, Darlene Weber. March 27, 2024, Christian Ivan Soto committed the offense of attempt first-degree murder. The victim, Jacob Volman. Count 9 of 11. On March 27th, Christian Ivan Soto committed the offense of attempt first-degree murder. The victim, Kathy Gilfillan. Counts 10 and 11 are home invasion. Then on March 27th, Christian Ivan Soto committed home invasion with a dangerous weapon at 4715 Cleveland Avenue. Count 11 of 11 reads identically, but the address is that of 4803 Cleveland Avenue. Those are the counts within the city complaint. I'm going to go ahead and read pretty much verbatim the factual summary, which is approximately 3 pages long, underlying those offenses. On Wednesday, March 27, 2024, Rockford police officers responded to 2316 Holmes Street in reference to an individual being run over by a vehicle and possibly stabbed. Upon officers' arrival, they conducted a welfare check at 2316 Holmes Street, at which time they located a male and female deceased inside the residence. They were identified as Jacob Shubek and Ramona Shubek. Both victims appeared to have been stabbed. Witnesses advised they had observed Jacob being chased across the street by a subject who was later identified as Christian Ivan Soto. Witnesses stated they observed Christian Soto in possession of an unknown, possibly black object that he was hitting or stabbing Jacob with as he was lying on the ground. It was then observed by witnesses that the suspect entered a black Chevy Silverado, which had been parked in the driveway of 2316 Holmes Street, and proceeded to run over Jacob at the end of the driveway. Jacob was observed getting up and running back into his residence. Soto was observed running back into 2316 Holmes Street and exiting a short time later. Soto re-entered his black Chevy Silverado and was last seen southbound on Holmes Street. In regards to the events at 2316 Holmes Street, Soto was later interviewed after being advised of his Miranda rights by detectives. Soto admitted to being friends with Jacob and going over to his residence to smoke marijuana. Soto said he believes the drugs provided to him by Jacob were, quote, laced, unquote, with an unknown narcotic. Soto said he became paranoid after the drug usage. He said he retrieved a knife from the kitchen at Jacob's house and proceeded to stab Jacob and Ramona to death. He could not recall a description of the knife. Soto stated he then left residence in his vehicle, and he recalled taking out the mailman. The attack on the United States postal worker took place in the 2200 block of Winnetka Lane. Officers located United States Post Office employee Jay Larson, who had suffered multiple stab wounds in his body in the front yard of 2217 Winnetka Avenue. He was transported to a hospital nearby, where he later succumbed to his injuries. Officers spoke with a witness who resided at 2217 Winnetka Avenue. That witness advised he was inside his residence when he heard a commotion outside. He looked and observed a male battering a United States postal worker, who he referred to as his mailman, in the grass area near the front of his residence. He observed the suspect on top of the mailman punching him. He said he opened his front door and he heard the mailman yell for him to call the police. As he dialed 911, he observed the suspect begin to walk towards his front door. He said he quickly locked the front door at that point and continued to watch the incident through his window. He watched the subject walk back to a black pickup truck nearby and retrieve a knife from the vehicle. He described the knife as being distinctive due to it having an orange handle. The suspect approached the mailman again and stabbed him numerous times in various parts of his body. He stated the suspect entered the driver's seat of the pickup truck, drove forward, and ran over Larson. He said the suspect struck a parked vehicle nearby. The suspect reversed the pickup truck and ran over Larson a second time with the vehicle. The witness said the pickup truck briefly stopped, and he observed the suspect run away between the houses nearby. The witness was transported to District 2, Rockford Police Department, where he was shown a photo lineup. He positively identified Christian Ivan Soto as the individual he observed stabbing the United States postal worker and running over him with his truck. Soto, as indicated above, was interviewed after being advised of his Miranda rights. He admitted that he recognized the mailman who was walking in the street holding mail that he was delivering. He admitted that he stabbed the mailman and tried to run over him with his truck. Officers also began to receive 911 calls about an attack at 4803 Cleveland Avenue. Upon their arrival, they met with Darlene Weber and her son Jacob Volman and her daughter Kathy Gilfillan. Officers learned the suspect, again later identified as Soto, forced his way into the residence and was armed with a katana-style knife. Darlene had just opened the door to the residence to allow their dog outside. At this time, Soto appeared at the doorway and stabbed Darlene in the left side of her face by her left eye. Soto then entered the residence and attacked Jacob and Kathy, who attempted to fight Soto off. Kathy sustained a stab wound to the lower left side of her chin, and Jacob sustained a laceration to the upper left side of his forehead and also the inside of the left side of his ear. Jacob was unsure if he was stabbed or if he sustained the injuries from Soto punching him. Jacob advised he struck Soto with a syrup bottle, at which time Soto left the residence. Darlene, Jacob, and Kathy were all transported to a hospital where they were treated for non-life-threatening injuries and were later released. Again, after being advised of his Miranda rights, Soto admitted to entering the residence and attacking 3 people with a knife. He recalled the residence having a pit bull and the dog biting him on his leg while at the residence. He fled the residence on foot. Officers were then flagged down about subjects being stabbed at 4715 Cleveland Avenue. As officers were responding to the multiple reported crime scenes, Rockford Fire Department was flagged down by a female in the 4700 block of Cleveland Avenue, who reported additional injured persons at 4715 Cleveland Avenue. Within that residence, officers located 2 injured juvenile females, SDN and KIA, along with a deceased juvenile female, JAN. They were deceased within the basement of 4715. She was deceased within the basement of 4715 Cleveland Avenue from apparent trauma to her health. Juvenile SDN, who had been transported to a local hospital, sustained an ulnar fracture, multiple lacerations to her head, and bruising to the left side of her torso. Juvenile KIA sustained several bruises to her left shoulder, left arm, and left leg. Detectives spoke to KIA. KIA spent the night at her friend J.A.N.'s house. The two were in the basement watching a movie on a laptop in J.A.N.'s bedroom. SDN was upstairs. SDN came downstairs and told them a man broke into the house. The suspect then came downstairs and was holding Jan's softball bat. The suspect called them bitches and asked where the gun was. The girls ran to the corner of the bedroom. He started swinging the bat, striking all the female victims. KIA was on the floor and curled up in the fetal position. And the suspect struck her on her left side. JAN was also struck a few times and collapsed. The suspect stopped and ran out. KA then ran outside shortly after and flagged down officers. KA described the suspect as being covered in blood when he arrived. She described him as a male in his mid-20s, tan skin, black hair, and a bowl cut. She stated he had on a beige hoodie and blue jeans, being approximately 5 foot tall, and he was a little taller than her. She described him as skinny. Detectives spoke with SDN. SDN stated she was in the kitchen fixing something to eat. The suspect entered the unlocked rear door. The suspect grabbed one of Jan's bats and started walking around the first floor. Somehow he didn't see her. She ran downstairs to warn the other girls. The suspect came downstairs and started swinging the bat. Jan got hit a lot and went unconscious. He stopped, said, "I'm going to get a gun," and went back upstairs. They could hear him walking around, and KIA called the police. SDN said the suspect had blood on him and dark hair and tan skin. He was wearing a gray sweatshirt and jeans. Soto was taken into custody. When taken into custody, he was wearing a gray sweatshirt and blue jeans. He was covered in blood. He had minor lacerations to his hands and was treated and released from the hospital. After being advised of his Miranda rights, he explained that he beat up and stabbed the mailman when he saw the police arrive, so he ran. He explained he ran to a house that had a garage with a motorcycle in it. He went to the back door of the house and entered through the rear unlocked door. That described house was 4715 Cleveland. He said he found a bat in the kitchen. He recalled hitting the 3 kids in the basement with the bat. A bat was located in the upstairs bedroom with blood on it. That's the city complaint. With respect to the county complaint, there are 2 counts. Count 1 of 2, that on March 27, 2024, in the county of Winnebago, Christian Soto committed the offense of attempt first-degree murder. And the victim in that case is Lindsay Craig. Count 2 of 2 reads nearly identical. Christian Soto is charged with attempt first-degree murder. The victim in that case is Keith Farney. The facts underlying the factual summary for this complaint. On March 27, 2024, police responded to the area of Florence Street and Eagleston Drive in Rockford, Illinois, for a report of multiple stabbings. Upon arrival, Rockford City and Winnebago County personnel saw Soto fleeing from 2 stabbing victims with a knife. He was taken into custody. During the investigation, it was learned that Soto had broken into multiple homes nearby in City of Rockford jurisdiction, and in doing so had beat a young woman to death with a bat, stabbed 2 adults to death, and ran over a mailman who died from his injuries. Soto then forced his way into 4624 Florence Street, Rockford, Illinois, by breaking a window, and he began attacking Lindsay Craig with a knife. Craig fled the residence, and Soto chased her on foot to the front yard area of 2129 Eagleston Road, Rockford. This was captured on camera. Once at this location, Soto continued to attack Craig with a knife, causing multiple injuries. A passerby, you heard the sheriff talk about a good Samaritan. A passerby, Keith Fahreny, Fahreny, was driving by in his gray Jeep, Illinois, in his gray Jeep. and saw this happening. He stopped to intervene, and Soto began to attack him with a knife, also causing multiple injuries. Soto entered Keith Ferny's Jeep in an attempt to steal it. Ferny pulled Christian Soto from the Jeep, but again was being attacked with a knife. It was at this time the police arrived and took Soto into custody. When doing so, Soto dropped the edge he was using at Lindsey Craig's feet. Both Craig and Farney saw Soto taken into custody and confirmed that he was the subject that was attacking them with a knife. Both Farney and Craig are in serious condition. Craig is currently intubated at a local hospital, and Soto, Craig is currently intubated at a local hospital. So I'm going to attempt to do a bit of a summary in terms of the addresses. The first address was 2316 Holmes Street, and it was that address that he killed Jacob Schubeck and Ramona Schubeck, who, as the factual summary indicates, he knew. The second address was 2217 Winnetka Avenue. That was where the murder of Jay Larson occurred. The next we believe to be 4715 Cleveland Avenue, which is where the juveniles were attacked and JAN was murdered. Next, 4803 Cleveland, which is the attempt murders on Weber, Volman, and Gilfillan. The last address being 4624 Florence Street. Those are the attempted murders of Lindsey Craig and Keith Farney. I have to say this. Soto was presumed innocent unless and until convicted, found guilty by a jury or court of law. As I mentioned, at 1:30 today, we'll be seeking his detention. I'm confident that he'll be detained pretrial. We'll also provide you with copies of these complaints and the factual summary. Keep in mind, as I mentioned earlier, the charges are likely to be different, or there'll be more charges at the time of indictment, and also that this investigation continues. This is the information that we know right now.